Hey guys, Kyle, the Death Knight of Anime here, and we are back with the Fire Force anime reviews. This time obviously for Fire Force Season 2, Episode 1, the premiere episode. And you know what? I've already seen a couple comments saying that this first episode was just kind of meh and boring. And don't get me wrong, I have my problems with this episode, but I think I've definitely got a bit of a different opinion, and I definitely have, a, I definitely have I think I have a bit more of an open opinion on this episode than most others do. Let's put it that way. So to start, obviously we got to talk about the opening because, well, for me, when it comes to the opening, it gave me that vibe of Inferno, but obviously with just a smoother musical tone to it through the song or the singer they chose. Visually, the opening is something else entirely though, because the animation in general on the opening is intense as fuck. But well, but the thing is with the opening, the visuals with the opening, I can't necessarily say if it's necessarily very spoilery opening. There is definitely a lot of references from the manga as well in this opening, and I'd honestly have to take a look and at it and study the opening closer, but I think this opening might have given away the ghost as to where this season's gonna end. I don't know for sure. I'd have to study it. I'd have to study it frame by frame again just to be sure. But I think I've kind of already got an idea as to where this is gonna end. Um, one thing one thing admit is kind of odd. I do admit is kind of odd though is where they chose to place the opening. Like if you've seen the episode, then you know they chose to like pretty much place the opening right smack dab in the middle of the episode. And I don't know if the first season's first episode did that, but yeah, it's just kind of a weird place to put the opening. Honestly, like really, you're gonna put it there? Okay. But yeah, it took me a little bit out of the moment, honestly. Now the ending is some is now let's talk about the ending because I want to talk about both the opening and the ending here. Uh, it's the ending is interesting to talk about because the vocals have a much more relaxed feel to them. But to me, where the ending falls short is like just how the opening had such intense visuals. The visuals in the ending are just kind of bland. It's really just a CGI like pretty much Shinra and Arthur running across the screen while showing the other characters in the background. So yeah, of all the endings I've seen in the Fire Force anime thus far, that one is probably the least artistically pleasing ending so far. Like it's just kind of like okay, so it's one of those where again the vocals are very nice and very soothing, but the visuals are like okay, so that ending exists. Like it really is just kind of an ending that exists, unfortunately. Um, so as a premiere episode, I could see a lot of people argue that this isn't the most epic or bombastic start to season two. But at the same time, I think this episode illustrated one of the series' biggest strengths and just kind of reminded me why I personally love Fire Force so much, which is in pretty much in typical in typical Atsushi Okubo fashion. It's it manages to combine these like slice of life elements with the more insane and plot driven parts of the series. And don't get me wrong, this episode as a whole, it wasn't very plot driven, but it did also, we can agree, it also had a very intense action scene. And I feel again, this episode showcased how the series manages to combine those two elements pretty damn well, I'd say. Like it's something as well that Soul Eater had a very good handle on, but the difference is I feel Fire Force's world allows the slice of life elements and the more action heavy elements to more naturally exist in this world. And by allowing this equal time to seeing the characters just be themselves and interact before they're thrust into an epic fight or major plotting, it gives us more time to connect with the characters beyond just their jobs as fire soldiers, while like still giving us that introspective into things like Shinra's goals and how important he sees his bonds, how important he sees his bonds and the bonds he's made with Company 8. Like to him, we see like how much just in that like moment, just in that beginning moment of seeing like of seeing Shinra, Maki, Maki Tamaki, and just Iris kind of all like shopping together. That scene was really good in the sense of just seeing how they how far their like friendship and their bond with each other has come. I think it's a very small scene, but I think it is still important in reinforcing this point that yeah, that Shinra has bonded with these characters now, has bonded with these other people now. So yeah, it's good in showing I think the very subtle development that Shinra's gone through. I think. Um, and talking about the adaptation of this episode is interesting in itself because it was a pretty good first episode. In fact, just based off the materials adapting, I feel it almost did it better than the manga. Like again, there was very little that was adapted, I guess, in this episode from the manga, but from what was adapted, I feel it just almost did it better, just in the small moments. Having said that, though, someone can correct me if I'm wrong in the comments section, but I think the majority of this episode kind of went the FMA Brotherhood route of creating like an anime only story around the canon content. Because I'd have to look back, but I don't remember like the fight specifically, the fight we had in this episode specifically, if it was from the manga or not. But I think it served its purpose well enough, and again reminding us why we like this story and these characters, and just showing how well they pretty much how well that they pretty much work together, and like in the same sense of the shopping scene, showing how well they interact when they're not working. That fight I think in itself showed just how much that their bond is, how well their bond works when they are fighting together. Um, Pacing, on the other hand, is probably where the episode does fall short, because there are times where it does feel like it does, where especially in that second half, it does feel like it does jump from one moment to the next a little too fast. Like for instance, with that, with how it, with how, like the fight just like the fight was so epic, but then the opening hits, and then after that we kind of go like to another, like we just cut away from the fight, so it feels like after the fight. So it's like, yeah, I think that was a little weird. Um, and honestly, in general, I can't believe they actually like they went so as far as to do the nude calendar bit. Like again, it's anime, so I shouldn't be surprised too much, but it's one of those things where you say, I can't believe they actually went there. Like it's kind of insane that they chose to do that. um, Now, also, I think a lot of my enjoyment for this episode, I think comes from a lot of the marketing that we got leading up to this first episode, because the marketing for the marketing for like the first episode of season 2 in itself, and that just Fire Force in general was coming back, it made me feel optimistic that we have long reached past the point of what happened when season 1 first aired, and that this season will make up for the unfortunate shortcomings and circumstances that plagued season 1. So even if this episode wasn't great, I still am optimistic of what the future episodes are going to be like. Like I think we can expect some really great stuff out of the future episodes. I mean, and plus, if the manga is anything to go off of, then yeah, we're in for some very epic stuff, I think. Um, with that said, let's talk art and animation, because that's definitely the part about this episode that falls definitely a little bit more short definitely a lot more short compared to any of the other problems I have, which is that I think this episode, the episode as a whole, when it comes to art and animation, I think definitely fell more in the standard category, as it's basically one of those times where it feels like the animators just showed up and did their job, at least for the first half of this episode. And even when the fight with the Infernal started, it improved, but it still wasn't great. In fact, honestly, like for me, the quality of the art and animation didn't really start to pick up for me until the other members of Company 8 like pretty much showed up like in order to back up like Shinra and the others in the fight with in the fight with that Infernal. And it was actually at that point where basically everyone was fighting the Infernal, where I feel the animation really kicked into high gear. So yeah, I know I'm a little all over the place, I guess, with this, but I'd say with art and animation, it's a progression where it started out, I guess, decent at best, then got really really good by the second half of the episode, and then just kind of maybe dropped off a little. I don't know, but yeah, guys. So but yeah, guys, that's all I got for this review. If you enjoyed the video, like, comment, subscribe. Follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Electric Control. Death Knight and me, signing off. Later, guys.